time for another panel. And this is an industrial and societal panel. It's hosted by Karolinska Institute, and it is called AI in Medical Research and Healthcare. It's hosted by Moderator Anders Gustafsson, Vice President and Professor at Karolinska Institute. I'll hand over to you, Anders, and your great panel. Welcome on stage.
So, good afternoon. As mentioned, we want to discuss how to transfer successful and interesting research in medical sciences to healthcare and medicine. And we have a panel here that is very well suited to do so. Johan Hartman is Professor of Pathology and Senior Physician at the hospital, or Karolinska University Hospital. Erik Helenius is a Professor in Pediatrics and Senior Physician at the same place. And Sabine Koch, nice to see you.
Hello, nice to see you.
Sabine is Professor in Medical Informatics at Karolinska Institute. Maybe you should start with a few words on your own research and what you do, your own projects. Do you want to start, Sabine?
Yes, I can do that. So as Anders said, I'm a Professor of Health Informatics at the Department of Learning Informatics, Management and Ethics at KI. I'm a medical informatician by training, so I'm educated in data system science, but specifically related to medicine and healthcare. So I've been doing applied informatics research in many areas. I usually combine the area of human-computer interaction with medical informatics, and then I've applied it to dentistry, elderly care, neurology, cardiology, to name a few examples. So always had the main focus on how can we support care and patient processes through usable information systems or services, and how do we need to structure and standardize the information or use standardized models for that. So currently I work in different EU projects, some related to the European patient summary, where standardization is one of the major issues. But we also have home monitoring projects and another project on next generation Internet of Things. Usually work in triple helix constellations with the healthcare sector and also sometimes with industry. I was the president of the International Medical Informatics Association until recently, so I'm quite internationally working, and also a lot in what's close to my heart is education, because we need a lot of good data scientists and health informaticists in the future, I think.
Absolutely.
So I will stop here and
Eric,
give over to the next one.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a pediatrician working with children and in pediatric emergency, head of research, etc. What happens when you come to the emergency? You're seen by a nurse that will have an early warning system and check, are you pale? How is your heart beating? What is your respiration? And then you do a triage. Then you take blood samples and then you start the whole procedure. That is okay if you're alone, but if you have 100 patients, it's tricky. So, to develop a good early warning system, you have to take into account all what happens, the dynamics of it. And if you look in the neonatal wards, where I have a lot of work and research as well, you have babies that are 500 to 5 kilograms babies. All of those are monitored quite intensely by ECG, respiration, saturation, blood pressure, etc. But this is information overload for most clinicians. You see, when you reach a threshold, you stop to breathe, or the heart is very slow, then you start to act. We have biomarkers to indicate when things are starting to happen, maybe an hour or 2 hours before. However, what we have developed are physiomarkers, so physiological markers, because we know part of the mechanism. I mean, when you're sick, all of you here, you start to feel a bit nauseous, a bit bad behaving like this. These will change your breathing, your heart rate, and saturation, and initially very subtly. So what we have established together with KTH, Psychochatty is up here, for example, and a collaboration since 6 years, that we have now been able to take all the monitor data from all the patient bed at Karolinska, harvest them in a secure GDPR-safe way, annotate them, and then at the neonatal unit, for example, we have 400 patients which are screened. And we can discover, before they have a life-threatening disease, a sepsis, 24 hours before the clinicians discover this. If this would have been implemented directly back to the clinic, which we are trying to work on right now, that will save at least 50 to 100 lives per year at Karolinska. And if you scale this to Sweden and internationally, it will be a major change of medicine.
I will ask you later what's stopping you, but Johan.
Yeah, so I'm working with another type of healthcare. I'm working with breast cancer, and especially with breast cancer diagnosis. I mean, we're facing huge challenges with too few doctors, but also that we are currently going through a digital revolution. And I would say that Sweden is actually one of the leaders in this digital revolution in pathology and images. So my research is very much into images and trying to get more information, to retrieve more information out of the images than what a doctor can actually do. Very brief, but I can get back to that later.
Yeah, I'll come back to all of you, but I meet people and I hear researchers often saying this thing. If we introduce this in the clinic, it would do that and save a lot of people, improve diagnosis. So my question is, and what we want to discuss is, why? Why don't we do this? What's stopping us? Is it medical reasons, technical reasons, regulatory reasons, ethical reasons, or is it just that we don't expect our patients to trust us in a way your patients don't have a choice to trust or not trust, but still.
Their parents have, so.
Yeah, their parents have, of course, but still, what's stopping us?
Well, I think first of all, what is very important is we have to differentiate research from clinical utility. I think that is super important. I mean, in terms of in research, we need ethical approvals, etc. When we do things in real life, then it's real, and it's really important that we do exactly as good as we can. And within my area, it's super important also that we follow the regulations in terms of CIVD, it's called the CE regulations, that we have some quality assurance of the products that we're using. So for us, I also have the experience of going all the way from early research at the university to innovation in a startup company, and finally with a product that is now launched for clinical utility. And for us, I think that's the only way to go, at least if you're going to do something outside of your own hospital setting or your own region setting. So that's absolutely a requirement then to fulfill these Läkemedelsverket and other kind of organizations' requirements.
True. I mean, if you want to act on the patient, that has to be validated and approved. We do research. You have come farther with the images. We work with time series data that are not as established yet. I mean, they have at MIT and different places. Here at Karolinska, they really didn't have the infrastructure. So we built it together with Karolinska Institute and Technical High School. But then, to get it back to the patients, which I want to do, of course, then you have to have CE, marking, labeling, and go through all the laws. So you need help.
But do you need to start a company to do this?
Well, I think you do. I think you do. I think you do. You know, someone needs to be responsible. That's the core here. Okay. Someone needs to take responsibility, not at least if something goes wrong, and the company will take that responsibility. But also these kind of processes, and we have a change in regulations in medical technology during the last years, which makes it even more complex and more demanding and expensive to do these kind of steps, which means that this is not supposed to be covered by universities or by taxpayers. This needs to be covered by companies, to get this through all the way to a regulatory approved product.
What do you say, Sabine? Are there regulatory?
I
You've been
think
working with regulatory and ethical problems too.
no, yeah, it's of course as both say, you need to have the MDA approval. I think another hindrance is also perhaps procurement. You may, if it's developed in your own clinic, or you could use it perhaps in your own clinic at best, but it's never scalable. So because we have procurement processes, and in order to go through these processes, you also need a company behind. So either you start your own, or you work together with another company who can take over the results. So I think that's important. And then and that's for any, it does not only apply to artificial intelligence and algorithms, but also to, of course, other IT products. Another thing that might be very important specifically with algorithms is, of course, if we have machine learning algorithms, the approval process, I don't think there are upcoming regulations, but if you have a self-learning algorithms, would you need to apply for approval every time you change something in the algorithm, for example?
Every time they learn something,
Yeah,
right.
everything they learn something new, or do you have so-called safe learning spaces where you say within these borders you can change your algorithm and you will still have the FDA or the approval that you currently have?
Now you're touching upon something I've been thinking about, this black box problem that when the machine will learn things, and soon enough we will not understand how they make their decisions. And in your case, I mean, you're working with X-rays. I mean, I can see a future where you don't have any pictures because the machine will talk to the AI, and the AI will give you a diagnosis. I would not feel very, very comfortable not seeing the picture, or what?
So first of all, I just want to comment there on Sabine. I think that we are not there yet, where we will see program softwares that learns by itself, and they are allowed to play around in healthcare. And I don't know, I don't foresee a future right now for that. I think it's still, you know, we're in a world where we have to use AI. We can use sophisticated AI models to train medical technologies, but they need to be launched like in new versions. For me, at least in cancer care, and when I'm working with images, I think that's the only way. And that's how we approach it at our own startup, Stratipath, at least, by doing version after version. It's more expensive, but that's the way to go. Although I think, and you also say we have new EU regulations coming in. I think that will be important, but that is more, I think, focused on those kind of technologies where you have self-learnings. And I don't think we're there yet. Regarding the black box problem, I think that's a really important point, but it might be, you know, I don't think it's a major problem in that way. So we can look at it in healthcare, that we need to have. I work with diagnostics, and with these kind of modalities, I don't care so much exactly how they perform the analysis, exactly how the algorithm works. And to be honest, as a physician, I cannot even understand it. What I care about, this is reproducibility, accuracy, that I can get the same kind of trustworthy results each and every time I use the method. That's what I care about. And to do that, you need to have a large data set, and you need to validate things on and on, again and again and again.
But still, let's say you, as a pathologist, have a different view than your machine. Who do you trust? I mean, is that to simplify too?
Well, I think today the model. So as I said, we are working in a digital environment now in pathology in most places in Sweden, and we're getting more and more digital. So even as in radiology, have been digital for many years now, and all the systems that we're now approaching and starting to use, these are decision support tools. So I don't think we're now facing any systems that can replace the doctors yet. No. But very soon, I suppose there will be a system that takes over narrow tasks from the physicians.
Yeah, globally, there's a big shortage of pathologists, indeed. And there people discuss let's have machines replacing or kind of decrease the problem with this shortage.
Well, I agree, absolutely. And we have some collaborations in Africa, for instance. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, we don't have that luxury as in Europe with pathologists. They don't even have any pathologists at all, perhaps. They have no one to diagnose the cancer. Of course, in those settings, we need to, have something, access for people, definitely. So this will look differently in different countries, I'm sure. You're right.
Decision support system, absolutely. I mean, you can't replace a human. I mean, if you have a baby or in the infants going on, you can't have that change the treatment you're doing. You have to give a warning signal that says, now you have to act. And maybe I don't have to understand all the algorithms that done it, but I have to trust the system. It has to be validated. True.
Because you say 24 hours before the actual crisis.
More than 24 hours, I see that one. But then we actually have unfolding algorithms. So you're actually able to explain your algorithms. You can see what has caused. Is it maybe the heart rate that now is starting to shift, or what is it? Yeah. Maybe you don't have to do that every time you give it back to the clinician at the bed, but you should be able to have an idea at least what are the factors that changes the outcome that comes out. It's not only the gene in the box.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but still, it means that the machine is better than you could. I mean, a nurse could not feel the crisis 24 hours before.
There are so subtle changes. I mean, initially, we act when we have the saturation goes down to 80, more oxygen, or the heart starts to go more ionotropes. You act on threshold values all the time, while machine learning can act on much more data and see the subtle initial changes that occurs. And we have some of the mechanisms how that occurs, but we can see that as physiological markers, physiomarkers.
Yes, thank you. Sabine, you have a broad...
My reflections on that, I think the difference is whether an algorithm is built into a machine, like in radiology, where you're so very used to it, that you don't need any explanation. Often you don't even see the really base source data. Then when it's more interactive system, I think as you both said, it's a matter of trust. If you have tested the system with your own data and used it for a long time, then you trust the system, and then you will use it. So it's a matter of time. Then there might be some other issues, for example, like when you use it in interaction with a patient, for example, then you get other aspects in, like culture, where I think in the Western culture you are not surprised if somebody looks up some guidelines or has some sort of decision support system when you are in a patient meeting. But patients in the Asian culture, for example, would see that as a failure. So there, I think physicians would not use these automatic systems in contact with the patients. But that's another question, and the one that you posed.
No, it's a little bit on the same line. We haven't really said what's stopping us right now. What is stopping the introduction of AI in healthcare? Or are there no obstacles? It's just moving on as fast as you can expect. Sabine, or anyone, please.
I think when starting a company and you really got it into action in this way. I think.
There's so many obstacles. One of the first is, of course, access to data, and that's extremely complicated. And for this kind of data systems, you need huge amount of data, and most often they're not even available. So that's one thing. Then it's, of course, always with this ownership of things. That's another thing, and that's, of course. And then even when there is a product available, everything takes time when you're going to introduce into healthcare. I think it's. And one of the problems we're facing in Sweden is, of course, different regions with different decisions and different systems and different IT systems, laboratory information systems, etc. So the whole this kind of enormous heterogeneity, as we see in the country, is demanding.
But saving 50 lives. Sabine.
And for research is international collaboration, so that we don't use the same international standards for many of these underlying systems is, of course, a very big difficulty to overcome, so that you can easier exchange your research data or use each other's. You do not need to exchange the data, but to give each other access to same formats in order to do your studies with more data. Yeah.
Back to your 50 lives. I mean, why are not Karolinska not using this since yesterday, and SÖS and Danderyd tomorrow?
Because we need to validate the system in external cohorts. So we have been speaking to other hospitals in France, etc. Because you need external cohort to validate your algorithm to see what works on my cohort works on everyone. Is this scalable? Is this applicable for all and everyone? We haven't done that yet.
So it's more technological than...
That's a technological one. The next thing, of course, you need a massive amount of... first retrieving the data, getting access to it. We've done all those kind of things, which a lot of laws. But then getting it back as well. First, you can have a company with a CE mark product, but you need help of lawyers also. Because this product, and especially in my case, it actually learns while examining the patient. And then can you patent one algorithm, and then a year afterwards, do you have to have version 2, version 3, version 4? Then I need help of lawyers. And of course, what I need at the hospital is a lot of mathematicians and engineers. So my proposition is actually that we're going to buy part of the older Karolinska building, move one of the departments from KTH on site, because currently there's not an existing AI center at Karolinska Hospital and Karolinska Institute. That would be a way to move forward and get faster the inventions we're doing out directly to the clinic.
But if you have like 100 kids connected all the time, you must acquire so much data over time.
Well, CMM has petabyte drivers right now where we're taking them. So there's a lot of data, So there's a lot of people who need it. So if you want data, please welcome.
You have data enough. Okay. My final question, time is running out. Which areas do you see as areas in healthcare which would benefit from AI most? Suggestions? Besides your own area, by the way. Sabine.
What would benefit? I'm not a clinician, but I think it will go first in the imaging areas. Then I think we should take all areas where there's boring jobs to do, where people want to focus on other types of work.
Yep.
And there, of course, imaging. Nothing against imaging, but perhaps the more easier examinations, like simple radiographs and so on, chest X-rays. If we can automatize them much more, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I want to take a picture of my different spots on my skin and have my telephone tell me whether they are dangerous or not.
There are apps out for that.
Yeah, I know, but are they good enough?
Not trustable.
Other areas?
No, but all kind of data handling, complex data handling will be, we will need it kind of systems. In addition then to, of course, all types of images. And in radiology or pathology, we're working with images, and it's very clear that computer systems can make better, some of the tasks can be better performed by a computer than a physician.
It can actually help the physician to focus on the patient instead of looking at different laboratory values and everything. So you will have a helper beside you.
Yeah.
So in the emergency especially, everything is extremely labor intensive. The nurses are sitting and checking every 15 minutes how this is happening. If you would have that semi-automatic, you'll save time, money, and lives.
So the thing you do with your kids now, later on, as soon as we enter hospital, will we connected to something?
Right now, one of my collaborators is Kiki Pukaran, who isn't here. She's national responsible for the pediatric early warning system. And we are right now validating that versus our semi-automatic system and see if it can better and if it can do it. So first we're doing it. So we're on our way, yes.
Yeah, sounds very good. Do we have some questions?
We have a lot of questions from our audience. This is one about accountability. We're not using evolutionary algorithms, that's okay. But with static algorithms also, This is the question. If an algorithm nudges a doctor and a decision goes wrong, who is to blame? Who's accountable? The decision support system, development team, the doctor using it, the hospital, or patients asking for such a tool or facility to be used?
Sounds like
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, but it's not a new question, and I think that's why we're using decision support tools now in the beginning of in the advent now of AI systems. So we will have systems. If we cannot exactly understand the conclusions, we need to put them in the context of the patient and all the other data.
The support system is going to be the doctor who is responsible in the end.
For the decision making.
Yes.
Many patients may not be aware about the use of decision support tools in their clinical journey. Do you think it's important to create that awareness? And what would that dialogue look like, and how will it affect the acceptance of such a system?
Well, those have been around for a long time, decision support tools. I mean, for electrocardiography or whatever. I mean, we have seen them for years now, so long before AI.
Eric, when you talk to the parents of your tiny patients, how much do they understand about the tools and the decision support systems that are actually in use? How much do they want to know?
They want confidence, and then I say I base my decisions on facts, and part of those facts is when I estimate the patient's, well, in this case, pulse, behavior, paleness, etc. So of course, they are aware that we're using early warning system in this case.
This is a Swedish question. You all mentioned the problem with data access and data sharing in Sweden. What's the way out, and what are the steps towards solving this problem in the near future?
I think Genomic Consortium has some kind of agreement that you can switch data between the different regions. I think we should piggyback them for maybe imaging data and also, in my case, physiological parameter data.
Well, I think there's still ongoing regulations now for this, and that will be changed regarding data handling and data sharing between different huvudmän.
Yeah, and I think that this new European health data area or health data space will actually push Sweden towards making data more available for secondary use, like research. So they will kind of push us to improve.
There were more questions,
different
but
things. It's
Sabine,
legislation
yes?
it's legislation and standardization. So there is work on the way.
Yeah, there are changes
Ongoing.
coming.
Great. And you had lots of more questions, but we are running out of time. Thank you again for an excellent panel. So many different issues are raised. Each panel requires another 3 panels.
Yeah.
Hope to see you back. Thanks for this one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.